All right, welcome to a new show under the Sonic Boom Studios kind of umbrella. It's a new show called Tales from the Video Store. I'm your host, Senor Filth. I have Trevor Brown. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. My name is Trevor Brown, and I am a guy in my 20s, which means I overthink about things a lot, and I have a bunch of business startups that are sort of all going on at about the same time.
Right, and Andres.
Hey everyone, I'm Dion Segovia, host of the Critic Corner, where I also talk about films. You can check it out over at locals.com.
All right, and today we're going to talk about my personal favorite film, Robert Zemeckis' Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Interesting little weird movie. It's hard to describe to people like what it is.
It's a film noir.
Yeah, it's a fun. It's like a blending of film noir with classic animation, um, like the golden age of classic animation, like the 30s and 40s,
It's
and
a Studio Ghibli movie that doesn't have its thumb so far up inside the nose.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it blends all these things together perfectly. And it's, to me, I think it's one of those sort of lightning in a bottle movies where it's the only kind of movie that's like it, and even movies that have tried to do something similar don't do it nearly as well. And it's kind of a bummer because I love the movie so much, and even when I think of like possible sequels, because there was a couple scripts written for this movie, but there's just something about this movie where I think like even a sequel wouldn't have worked as well.
I'm looking forward to the sort of a reimagining of Who Framed Roger Rabbit for a newer audience, for newer generations,
Mm-hmm.
where uh, where all the characters are black, lesbian, disabled,
Yeah,
trans, bipolar, blue
if
pube hairs,
if
or whatever. I don't know.
if they do a remake or something like that, they're gonna really beef up the like segregation aspect of it, which is just annoying. But the movie does kind of hint at that a little bit, but not enough to like kind of sidetrack from the direction that the movie's going with, which is like, while watching it last night, I noticed like how incredibly focused the movie is. Like
Hmm.
there's no like subplots. Like there could have very easily been a subplot with Dolores with her mean boss, and like she quits when at this moment or some shit like that.
He always is funny, or only on days when he's wanted for murder?
They could have done that, but the movie doesn't steer away from just the focus of just Eddie Valiant and Roger Rabbit. And it's just so refreshing to see that, because I get annoyed at like subplots when they divert so much from like what the movie's trying to do, and it just annoys the hell out of me.
It's funny that you say
Yeah.
it's refreshing. Well, it's not exactly refreshing because it was made in
Oh
1987,
yeah, yeah,
1988.
88,
So
yeah.
it's the loss of the art of making just telling a good story,
Yeah.
and this kind of connects to when you were on my show.
Mhm.
We had a theme to discuss for the show with you, and we went something entirely different. My thesis for the episode was wokeism was destroying creativity,
Mhm.
and the highlights that we were talking about. It's like, well, no, wokeism is a new form of creativity. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Whereas the
Yeah.
creativity was lost a long time ago when the big budget studios started just going dipping into the well of trying to make
Yeah.
franchises or remakes.
Mhm.
So,
Hmm.
like you said, lightning in a bottle. Robert Zemeckis, off the success of Back to the Future,
Yeah.
with his longtime collab, Alan Silvestri, which they were cementing their relationship back then.
Mhm.
The As you were highlighting the technicality, that's what I love about the opening of the film, where it was a
Yeah.
Hmm.
classic throwback to the Looney Tunes
Yeah,
of
first
old.
let's like just establish like how the movie opens. Like it's so
I have
This is
no
what-
idea when the movie takes place.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
talking
can't
about.
comprehend it.
Like, it's a movie.
Is it 20s or
It's
50s?
40s.
90s? I can't.
I think the
Say
date.
40s or 50s.
I think the date they show in the movie is 47. I think. I could be wrong,
Okay.
but it's a
the
great.
dawn of the freeway.
Yeah, it's a great way to sort of like open the movie. If you've never seen a golden age cartoon, it just sort of sets up the like that kind of era of cartoon, and it's such a great way. Like if you're, what I love about like this movie is that you can tell it was very much made by nerds. People that were nerdy about not only film noir but nerdy about golden age cartoons, like
People who care.
yeah, generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Looney Tunes and like Tex Avery cartoons, like that great golden age of cartoons. I noticed yesterday when Judge Dune pulls out the sword, Eddie Valiant just grabs like a cartoon sword, and it's like a Frank Sinatra sword.
Wicked witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo,
If you're a dork about like golden age cartoons, like that was a kind of a common little joke that they would do. They would portray Frank Sinatra but just really skinny. Just to see it in that movie, and it just clicked, like, damn, like these fuckers, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about as far as golden age cartoons. Yeah, I guess we should sort of establish like what the movie is kind of about. I guess for people.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll summarize a synopsis for the folks.
Yeah, let's just go the beginning.
Did you get a synopsis from ChatGPT?
The story, like we established, it's a film noir, a detective story, Gumshoe. So it pays in homage to that kind of era of telling a story
The story of greed, sex, and murder.
with the change being that they're interacting with real life tunes, not
Yeah.
not like computer animated stuff. No,
Right,
but
right.
what if tunes were real and and lived amongst us, and they were just no different than other actors?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of environment that these creatures or creations live amongst us and with us. So the story is just your typical story of a whodunit story. There's a murder of someone, and someone is named the culprit, and he maintains his innocence. And someone who has a strained past, feeling betrayed because of the death of his partner, who happens to be his brother, at the hands of the very victim, I guess, type. He ends up having to kind of bite his pride and put his prejudice aside to help clear the name of a cartoon who is framed for a murder of someone. So Who Framed Roger Rabbit it's all on the name. So the technique on telling a old story, which has been retold so many different times in different ways, is the approach that makes the whole thing unique, entertaining, and quite honestly, after all these years, a marvel to behold, because you just can't kind of capture that magic.
It never all throughout my years I watched this movie at least like once a year. It never feels dated. Like
Exactly.
there's always going to be like those technical Marvel movies that come, technical film movies that like come out and like, oh, this is new technology, they push it out. But after a couple of years, they start to kind of look a little rough. Like
Look at the giant chrome domes in this new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Isn't George Lucas great? We replaced the puppet with the pixels.
Yeah.
Isn't it great?
Like another movie that kind of comes to mind that's similar as far as like a favorite movie that was technically advanced was probably Jurassic Park. But even there's parts in Jurassic Park the CGI looks a little rough.
Come on, girl. Come on, up here, girl. Come on. Up here. God bless you!
What the fuck is that?
But this movie just looks as fresh as it did back when I first saw when I was a kid.
Achoo! Gesundheit. Thank you.
There's something about like just so much care that they put into the movie that's it puts a smile on my face every time I watch it.
One of the few movies that comes to mind when you have humans interacting with the cartoon world is something like Mary Poppins or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I think Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was one of them, where humans are interacting with
Yeah.
in the cartoon space. Either they're in the cartoon world. I think mostly it's humans in the cartoon world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the inverse of that,
Yeah,
where the
yeah,
cartoons are in the human world. And the interaction is just every time I see it, like when the weasels are inspecting Eddie Valiant's office looking for
Yeah,
Roger,
yeah.
it always gets me that the weasel splashes the water on
Yeah,
Eddie
that's
Valiant as
great.
leaving.
Step out of line and we'll hang you and your laundry out to dry.
Dude, just those, like you were mentioning, the little details, the shadows, it's just the animation, the
I just
timing of
thought it was a
everything.
group of Italians.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're Italians. You know?
But it's so well done.
Yeah.
And if you, like you said, seeing the behind the scenes, Eddie's driving a freaking cartoon taxi, okay?
Mhm.
And that's like the number one ride I wanted to go to when they opened Mickey's Toontown in
Yeah,
Disneyland.
yeah.
Moving, spinning, swerving, sliding, and it never stops. Well, almost never.
And I think credit to Warner Brothers for lending their characters to a Disney property.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what stands out, because it wasn't just. I think that's what lends to the realism of the story. It wasn't relegated to just Disney properties.
Yeah,
It was
that's
all the known classics.
That's one thing I noticed when I was a kid. Like, if they made it just like if it was pure Disney and like he was with Mickey Mouse, it would have like sort of like taken you out of
Who framed
or something
Mickey
like that.
Mouse
If they, it
so
would have
funny.
like taken me out a little bit when noticing that it's just Disney characters, but you see characters from Warner Brothers. You see like some Fleischer cartoons, like the Betty Boop is a Fleischer
Yeah,
cartoon.
Betty Boop is in it, yes.
But I still got it, Eddie. Boop, boop, doo.
I think Woody Woodpecker was in there.
I'll tell you one thing, Doc. He weren't no rabbit. Or a duck.
Or a dog.
Or a little wooden boy.
Or a
Or a woodpecker.
Or a pussy.
It would have dated the film for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the mere fact that it contained all those other properties, and specifically the bigger names were Warner Brothers because the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I think that's the it's so iconic, and I think the way they filmed it was very, very well. They shot it was very, very well.
Yeah.
When Eddie Tweety Bird counts the piggies, and
Yeah,
Eddie
yeah,
is
yeah.
falling in Toontown, and as he's falling forever, there's Mickey, and then there's Bugs.
Yeah.
It's one of the most iconic scenes in the film, outside of Jessica Rabbit scene, right? And I think what really lends it to its timelessness is the creation of an original character, in this case Roger,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow feeling familiar, that we feel
Yeah.
for him. It's that we felt we've known him. He's always entertained us, but he's never entertained us other than just the opening scene with Baby Herman, and
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
it. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't exist.
Oh, my hero. Oh, honey bunny.
Oh, love cup.
Yeah, that's a great thing about the movie. The movie goes the extra effort on so many things just to like try to not make you notice like the animation, like the cartoon characters they don't stand out so much. Like they just sort of blend in with everything, like with the shadows and the highlights. Which, if you ever see the making
They're
of this
almost
movie,
3D like too.
yeah, like
when the
Yeah.
Roger
Rabbit.
and the rabbit Roger, there we go.
Roger.
When Roger Rabbit and Eddie are like interacting with each other, like it looks like they're the way they move. And I remember seeing that like when they were in the office or whatever, like not when he was like Roger was like stuffed in his shirt or whatever, but like when they were like arguing with each other and like he slips out of the handcuffs and then slips back into
yeah,
the
you want to know
handcuffs,
something so
Sure.
like insane about that? If you notice, when Eddie Valiant hits the lamp, like the lamp's moving, it's causing like the shadows to come in and out. Like apparently, like that was like one of the toughest scenes to animate because of the
I'd
shadow
imagine.
part. Yeah, and if you ever see like the making of it, like the process of how they did that was for each cell, they had like the flat animation, but they also had like two or three other layers of like one was just like a shadow layer, another one was like a matte layer, and another one was a highlight layer. So they had to sort of like mix and match which worked for each lighting of the scene. And I think it was ILM that did it, the same company that did Star Wars. They do so much effort just to like to put these things that like you might not even notice, but they just did it anyway. The scene when they go to the Ink and Paint Club, when Donald and Daffy Duck are doing the piano thing, they actually put forth the effort to actually show the reflection in the piano, like Donald's,
the piano keys.
Yeah, but even the black, like they show they went forth that extra effort. Like someone had to actually animate that reflection, and when they didn't need to do that.
This means war.
No,
but
it's
that's
not
what
necessary.
lends to the realism.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, but they went forth and put that extra effort in. Even also when your favorite Jessica Rabbit's performance,
My least favorite. Let me keep that clear.
but
It has nothing to do with my recent conversion to Protestantism. It has a little bit to do with that. It's just I remember seeing this and thinking to myself, "Oh, this evil,
Step
evil
1, 2.
thing."
but they add the detail. I don't know if you noticed, because she's wearing the shiny dress, but to the tight
A
thin
sheer dress.
you should be able to see through it. And there's like a few shots where they show like her legs, and you can actually see through the fabric. Again, like they didn't need to do that, but the fact that they just added those little details, for me being like a detail stickler, like it just blows my mind that they did that.
Well, what you're mentioning there is exactly the attitude, though, of current students. We don't need to do that. They're not going to notice. And that's the point, that back then, when they were putting the care, because they knew, hey, we got to do this, they'll notice. And that's some of my favorite stuff when it comes to discussing behind the scenes. Sometimes the most difficult things to do are the stuff that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't there, you will. And that's what's really separates the craft, the effort, the willingness to put in that work. Whereas today's studios just want to get things out the door.
Yeah.
Like, we'll deal with it later. A lot of the stuff we take for granted, that here in our 2023 lenses, as we look back, and it's like that's why they don't really make them like they used to. In highlighting the 80s, we're looking at original properties. This wasn't saturated with sequels, with the exception of Back to the Future, the 2 Star Wars movies that came out that year, and of course the behemoth that was Indiana Jones. You just could not ignore that. But it didn't feel like it was overwhelming the market. The market demanded those original stories and follow-ups. When you have something that kind of bridges the two, and it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and you're doing a callback. Alan Silvestri is known, the composer for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's known as the chameleon of composers because he can just shift and blend into all these different genres. He's just coming out of the success of the orchestral masterpiece that is Back to the Future. One of the reasons you cannot remake that film is that way, and also because of Michael J. Fox and oh my goodness,
Christopher Lloyd.
You cannot remake it because of them, and of course Robert Zemeckis. Even I don't believe Robert Zemeckis can remake that film. But the thing is, them working together to create a film about an era, a bygone era, and merging 2 different I guess genres of filmmaking, because live action and animation.
3 elaborate movies in one. It was a period film noir live action movie. It was a feature-length animated movie, and it was a special effects movie.
Is what makes it such a magical, unique, beautiful film. And you're right, I cannot think of any movie since then that has captured the magic that's tried to do that.
Yeah.
Or even before that.
I do have to say, like, it is a genius decision to make it a period piece, because the original book, I think, is actually it takes place in present time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
present time being when?
Or
just
the 80s.
In the 80s or
Like
whatever.
70s or 80s.
But yeah, the fact that they made it a period piece up in the 40s really kind of saves the movie, because it keeps it. It's weird to say this, but it keeps it from feeling dated, because I can imagine if it was done in present time, they would have like added a scene where Roger Rabbit like raps or some shit like that. Like they would try to like they would be like that hip hop scene.
Here goes nothing. What up? It's Porky Pig. They call me P double L G. Step to me, he don't want no trouble.
And they stayed away from that. They just kept it very simple. Just it's a film noir. You brought up the score. I know I've never been really one to pay attention to scores that much, but I do notice with this one, it does a great job of like sort of, it feels like film noir, but there are moments that do still feel cartoony. If I were to use a word to describe this movie, it would be balance. Like everything is balanced so incredibly well. Even as far as this movie has a silly element to it, but the serious parts are treated very seriously, but it stays within this realm where even the serious parts have an element of silliness. Like how Eddie Valiant's brother dies.
So what's his problem?
Toon killed his brother.
What? Huh?
Dropped the piano on his head.
But her delivery of it is just so straight, and it's so it's just so awesome.
Nice monkey suit.
It would have been really like campy if the whole thing had taken place in Toontown.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that we get to visit Toontown as like in the third act is what separates it, because we're not there very long.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa, this place is amazing. You don't feel like you didn't explore it. You feel like you explored it. You got a sense of the place. And you're like, oh, you visited here that often. I can see why you won't want to come very often because it's overbearing. But the mere fact that we explored enough, that it was fun.
I love though when he's going
the
into
detail that what is it, that Jessica Rabbit is ugly in Toontown.
That's not her, but yeah.
Oh
no,
it's
it's
like a look-alike kind of joke
like
gag,
a body
yeah.
look-alike, yeah.
I love that as Eddie Valiant's driving into Toontown, it's like a magical forest, and there's like singing, creatures, and all of a sudden he just crashes into like a ghetto part of Toontown. Like it's so fucking awesome. I can't get enough of this movie.
Yeah, especially since it's right there. Like, where is it? Oh, knock this wall down and voila, there it is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no wonder they want to use div to erase it.
Can you guess what this is?
Oh my God, it's dead!
Yeah.
And okay, I think a highly underrated moment is probably my favorite, like just little moment.
What?
It's because they use it in the cartoons all the time. It's those shadow.
Oh, the holes.
The holes. Like they just throw, hey, check this out, and just put his arm in and it comes up from somewhere else. It's like who didn't ever want to do that? You see it in movies like, oh, here, throw it down, and one of the characters just falls into the hole. And it's like, this is like, they're just little flimsy things. Like, oh, that's so awesome.
I love the fact that they Marvin, the creator of Acme is a real character in the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and like his portrayal is so perfect, like how you'd imagine someone who ran Acme would be. Like he's like this grown-up kid kind of character. When I was a kid, I thought that was a real guy. Like I thought that they were basing it on actually. Yeah, I thought they based it on a real guy. But then as I got older, I got the joke, and it just made me added like this element.
Isn't Acme though a Warner Brothers property?
Yeah, I mean, this movie is a very much like a love letter to Warner Brother animation, much more than Disney. Disney's not really.
Yeah, I got the feel for it too.
Disney's not really that like represented that much in this movie. Aside from
the Dumbo reference,
so the Dumbo, Fantasia a little bit. Yeah, I love that the mops are just being used to clean up.
No,
And like they have the guy like playing the saxophone to get him going, kind of shit.
yeah. It's and here's the thing that you're highlighting. There's a lot of inside reference there.
Yeah.
So that's why every frame is purposeful.
Mhm.
And some of these I recognize, but I didn't remember exactly where they were from.
Mhm.
But that's what's fun about it. The whole thing is like an Easter egg hunt,
Yeah,
especially when they all gather at the end.
that's one cool thing about this movie. Like I've seen it so many times, and I enjoy it, so much. But like it's also turned into like as I watch it, it's like a kind of I Spy kind of thing, where like I every time I watch, I find new little details, little jokes here and there. Like when Eddie Valiant's in Toontown, he's being chased by the ugly woman. He goes right before he has his little altercation with Tweety. Like he's into that bathroom that has no floor. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm.
Yeah, but if you look to the side, like there's like in marker written on the bathroom wall, like says something like, "For a good time, call Alice," quote, "in Wonderland." Just like little things like that. And there's other things, but yeah,
and it is a very mature film for an 80s PG. Was just like when you look at Spaceballs PG, when you look at Ghostbusters PG, like this is PG. This is not it.
If you do not give me the combination to the air shield, Dr. Slotkin will give your daughter back her old nose.
Because in Hooper and Roger Rabbit, watching it with the kids, I'm like, oh, that moment's a little too mature for them. Taking away the Jessica Rabbit stuff. Of course, that was sensuality. But the other thing was Eddie Valiant eyeing the hottie mom that was bending over. At least you thought it was the mom, and no, it was the I guess it was, what do they call them? The assistants for Baby Herman. Oh, even the violence was like people getting shot. I'm like, that was a little much.
Yeah, I gotta say though, like when I was a kid, I always kind of liked these kinds of family movies. I never liked kid movies that felt too kiddie, like Barney and Wheels on the Bus. Like shit like toddlers. That I never really liked. But stuff that had like a bit of an edge to it, there's always been stuff that like always stuck with me, because it always felt like even when I was a kid, like it's not necessarily talking down to me, and that's what that kind of stuff like I really always loved.
I do feel there as a father now, I do feel that there requires a balance, and PG in the 80s was not what it be today. I think this movie would have easily been PG-13 if they used today's classification standards. I think Hooper and Roger Rabbit, you called the lightning in a bottle. There's a reason there haven't been another movie like this in 30 odd years.
Yeah.
You just you can't, and if you do it today, it's not anything magical or special.
Yeah, but also another reason why you won't be able to make a movie like this is because, again, if you ever watched the making of it, like there was so much effort put into this movie. Like the guns that the weasels were holding, those are real guns, and they just had like actual puppeteers on the ceiling to fucking just like little things like that. And also in the Ink and Paint Club, how they did that, like the penguins with the trays, like. They built the stage I think 10 feet high, so there could be people under there walking around with like metal sticks, like moving the things, and just insane amount of effort.
This set is peculiar insofar it is never still, never unlit. The lights are burning, the generators are running, to all intents and purposes, 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
all those are
I don't
great examples of why this movie is really good, but you're all wrong, both of you. And here's why. The thing that separates this movie from everything else is the smoking baby.
Yeah,
the smoking baby is why this movie is a good movie. That's it. You don't need any other. You don't need anything else.
That's because the baby is a man.
He has some of the best lines in the movie too.
I've been trying to make him quit, but he just won't listen to me.
What do you know, you dumb broad? You got the IQ of a rattle.
It's a baby smoking like
a stogie.
The most biggest, fattest stogie ever. Saying,
I just love that the problem that Roger screwed up his lines. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
A tweeting bird? A tweeting bird. It calls for stars.
Yeah.
I'll do it again. Look. I'm sorry. It always cracks me up.
Thanks. I needed that.
Hooper and Roger Rabbit will always have a special place in my heart. I don't think it's a remakeable film, just like the Back to the Future movies are not remakeable, just like any of the Indiana Jones movies are not remakeable, even to some extent Star Wars. And I would say, don't touch them, leave them, enjoy them. And I'm opposed to a sequel. I don't see why there would be a sequel for any of this.
Yeah,
the sequel would take the movie.
Yeah, there was I heard that there was like 2 sequel scripts made. One was like, and they were both like sort of prequels of how Roger Rabbit became a star. But I'm not really sure if that would even work, because that would focus solely on Roger being the main character, and he's actually kind of annoying. So that's what makes that's what makes like Eddie Valiant so. That's what makes the dynamic of the movie so great. It
because he calms the rabbit.
Yeah, it has a kind of like Odd Couple element to it, where, you know, Roger's like overtly silly and kind of annoying, but like Eddie Valiant kind of like speaks for the crowd and for the audience as far as like how annoying he is and how he reacts. Again, just little details like that.
When I was watching it about 2 weeks ago, I've never done this before, but I was just sort of like watching it like while I was doing other things, and me and Eddie, the cop, said "shut up" at the same time. This is the first time this ever happened to me, you know?
Yeah.
You got into it.
No. I was just like, I was editing something for someone, and then I just heard the like, and then we both said "shut up" at the same time. I was like, oh God, you know.
I'm just amazed. There's things being done. When we start off, you think, you've got to be kidding. There's no way we're going to do that, and we do, and we do it better than we thought we were going to do.
I guess lastly, one thing I wanted to point out, like I thought, or 2 things. As I've gotten older, I've sort of noticed why this movie works so well, and why this movie separates itself from other movies like Space Jam and other kind of similar movies, is that the decision to have this movie, like the story takes place in a universe where cartoons and humans exist, but also like the humans are completely unimpressed by the cartoons. Like there's no like surprise element for the humans to see a cartoon. This movie very could have easily have been a thing where Roger comes out of the television screen and, oh my God, he's real, and there'd be like this added thing to like every scene has to be Eddie Valiant proving that he's real and all this shit. But no, the movie doesn't do that at all, and it just picks up that he's just, you know, trying to help him out of this little caper. It really helps with the what's the word, the submersion of the movie, or the immersiveness. I'm sorry, the immersiveness of the movie. Like it doesn't.
I think it's both.
I think that decision really is the thing that like helps this movie work the way it does. Like the only thing I can think that takes a similar approach is probably like the Muppet movies, where you just see people and puppets like in the same world, but there's no like, oh my God, they're real. Like they're just part of the world, and it keeps the movie just so focused into just being a caper movie, and it's just so awesome that they did that.
Could have very easily had a flashback of Toons coming to life, and
yeah.
That's why there's the discrimination and the you know.
That's another reason why I'm worried. Like I'm fine if they never made a sequel, because they would have probably delved into like how this world came, and that would probably kind of ruined it.
It's like, why are you gonna do the whole, what are the origins of Wolverine from X-Men? The whole mystery is what makes him the character.
Yeah.
But in the case of this one, I also think that what really required was everybody bringing their A game. Yes, we talked about the media aesthetics of things, but the presence of the on camera, we expect a lot of the voice actors to deliver what they were going to deliver, but Bob Hoskins basically carries that film.
You can't lose sight of the fact that the thing that makes the animation interaction work is his side of the performance. It's him believing that the rabbit is really there. All the special effects in the world wouldn't work without his performance.
Remember, you never saw me.
Yeah, do you know that for that he had to, what he did to prep was he had to take mime training for that movie?
And then back up to that level, right?
We also put the actors in mime training so that they could learn how to say, actually, like Bob Hoskins could learn how to pick up the rabbit by the neck and learn how to, make it look like there was weight in his hand.
Because they could have very easily just had like metal like
Yeah.
things or whatever, like just sort of about that the actors were supposed to grab or whatever.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
They could have done a Star Wars and put like a green
Yeah.
particle effect over glass.
Yeah,
It was more complicated than that, but I don't know what they actually did with that.
Yeah.
But that's basically what they did.
Another thing I noticed recently is that there's no child character in the movies. There's no like the only ones we see are the ones that they're in the trolley with him, and he gets like, did they give him like cigarettes at the end of their little ordeal?
They give the adult cigarettes. It's
Yeah.
Thanks for the cigarettes.
Like they could have easily had like the child character who befriends Roger before to like convince Eddie to take the case or something, but no, they did. It's just Eddie, and that's it. It's such a simple movie. Yeah, it's such a simple movie too, and
They only did that train scene to prove that there were children that exist.
Well,
in the
if
movie.
anything, it's all that did the world building, and they're trying to say, remember this magical world where we used to, be at peace with the cartoons and all this, and we had our kumbaya. We lost all of that innocence when we allowed the freeways to come through here and give the funds to the car companies and the oil companies and all that. That's the undertone of the whole thing. That's the part that I hate about the movie. Like, okay, I get it. You're piling heavy on this thing. And outside of that, like the movie itself, I absolutely enjoy. But it was also trying to make that political statement there at the very end that it's really on the nose.
Well, apparently the movie, they got script ideas from an unmade sequel to Chinatown. You know the movie Chinatown?
Interesting.
Even to the fact where Cloverleaf, the name of the whatever the company
is taking over the trolleys, man.
I think that was originally going to be the title for the sequel to Chinatown. That one was about the development of, what do you call it, the freeway system in LA.
The freeway system, yeah.
When Eddie talks about the this is Los Angeles, we have the best public transport system in the entire world. I just cracked up. I'm like, wow. No one expected the 21st century. Oh man.
Who needs a car in LA? We got the best public transportation system in the world.
I guess lastly, we could talk about just the performances everyone gives. I mean, Bob Hoskins, I don't really know anything he was in before Roger Rabbit. I would see him in things here and there, but I would just know him as Eddie Valiant from Roger Rabbit. But his performance is great. And
yeah, I know him as Smee in Hook.
Yeah, he's Smitty in Hook.
Eddie Valiant. I know him as Mario with John Leguizamo.
Name? Mario.
Last name?
Mario.
The Mario live action show.
Yeah.
No, the
movie. There's a
movie,
movie.
yeah, it was a movie.
And-
Oh, okay.
yeah, you don't have to talk about that.
They're brothers. They're plumbers.
We have to talk about that, and I'm sure that Bob Hoskins, rest his soul, wouldn't want to talk about it either. But the mere fact is, he pulled the look off. He did. But yeah, I recognize him from several other properties. I think one of the last movies he did, he had a really good performance in it because he pulled it off very well. Was in the movie Enemy at the Gates with Jude Law and Joseph Fiennes. He plays oh my goodness, the general holding Stalingrad during World War II. You guys haven't seen it. He looks just like the real guy, and I really enjoyed his performance there because like he kind of sold it. Like, wow, man, you look legit as not Gorbachev. I forget the name of the guy.
My name
is Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev.
I never thought I would see him do slapstick. So when he does it to be like toony and cartoony, doing a performance at the very end, I'm like, he's behaving like a cartoon character, and he was just so stoic.
Yeah, but I do like that arc of him. Like, he's a kind of a dick throughout the movie. He's mean, but he has to like sort of use his sense of humor to something that he lost from losing his brother to sort of save the day. It's just a fun like little arc. Yeah, this movie does a great job of like setting things up, and everything has a nice little payoff. Like how they
Jordan Peele psychoanalyzed Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
He probably should.
Every single word.
What you teach them is you're not as much of a rabbit as you think. And part of that is that you help them grow some teeth.
Yeah, but how they set up him using the hole and the little the mallet thing with the boxing glove in it, like that's set up earlier and it's used later when he takes down Judge Dune. Such a really tight script too. Like everything is just so well done.
And as you were mentioning performances, this is Christopher Lloyd coming off playing one of the most beloved characters on screen.
Yeah.
With Doc, and all of a sudden he's terrifying.
Yeah. Apparently,
what he was wearing, I'm just like, und Doctor, I was just like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd see wide-eyed Dr. Emmett Brown, all stern and committing genocide.
Yeah, I love his performance though. He plays it. Every human plays that part so straight. I was doing some research on the movie, and apparently Chevy Chase and Bill Murray were thought for Eddie Valiant's character, and that would really have changed the movie completely because they're more comedic. They would have brought a more comedic angle to the character, but Bob Hoskins portrays it so straight, and like he's just a flat out an adult in the movie. Really makes it just balances out this movie so incredibly well. I guess we can kind of start ending it there. I mean, I can't recommend the movie enough. I mean, there's other things we could talk about Jessica Rabbit. I have to say, I love her design. It's so cartoony, and it's so exaggerated that it's hilarious to me. But that's just me.
My Instagram algorithm has sort of groomed me to the point where every time I see a horror, my brain immediately goes to
Jessica Rabbit.
No, Patrick Bateman, Thomas Shelby, a Joker. My brain immediately just goes to, what are you doing, wasting your time with that thing, with that cow? That's whenever that's what my brain goes to now. Like whenever I see a woman that's even like the slightest scantily clad, I just can't be bothered with it anymore. And I would like to humbly thank the Instagram algorithm for grooming me. I greatly appreciate it, because after that, I really started getting my life on track with my businesses. Thanks Instagram for grooming me. I appreciate it.
I can honestly
you should also
say
stop, by the way.
that Jessica Rabbit is more believable than any of those Instagram models. With all the touch-ups that they do to themselves in Photoshops for the right shot. No. Jessica Rabbit's more legit.
Yeah.
Still though, with recommending the film, it's an absolute film that's a must, especially if anyone's a film aficionado. Whether I know people that just hate anything animation. It's like, dude, this is a must see. Put your biases aside, and you never know, you might actually begin to appreciate the medium when done right. In this case, it's not an animated movie. You'll relate to Eddie Valiant. Like, I'm done with Tunes until you actually go check out Toontown.
Eddie Valiant pretty well.
I do think that this movie is a great sort of just introduction to film, because it does feel like just like an homage to just film in general, as far as like the techniques used, the genre. Like film noir is such a classic genre that I think people should get into. So it's a nice like sort of a gateway into just film in general. And I guess check it out. I can't recommend it enough. Thank you guys for watching. Check it out. Peace.
Okay, move along. There's nothing else to see. That's all, folks. I like the sound of that. That's all, folks.